One author is proposing some common sense fixes to the rental assistance program that would be a much better idea than the eviction moratorium. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. All right, so I have an interesting article for you today, and it's really going over the problems with these eviction moratoriums, okay? And how the honest best idea in order to keep people from being evicted would be to fix the rental assistance programs so that landlords could get paid by them and tenants would be allowed to stay in their properties. But before I get into this article, go ahead, hit that like and subscribe button, maybe leave a comment down below and let me know what improvements you think would be good for these rental assistance programs. I know there's so many ways that we can make these things better and work better for us. So this article that comes from the New York Post, and it says, instead of a dumb ban, New York should pay landlords not to evict tenants. Yeah, as everyone should know by now, the state of New York is trying to implement a new eviction moratorium in their state since the CDC's eviction moratorium was cut down and their state eviction moratorium was destroyed by the Supreme Court right before that. So now the new governor of New York, she's trying to implement something new to protect the tenants, while my personal belief is eviction moratoriums aren't going to protect tenants, but maybe these rental assistance programs can assist some tenants, okay? So let's see what the article says about it. Governor Kathy Hochul has decided to cast the U.S. Supreme Court as the enemy of the state's tenants and to look for ways to continue the dubious evictions ban. In reality, she and the state legislature should be looking in the mirror. It's state government that's to blame for the snail's pace distribution of $2.4 billion in federal assistance meant to pay rents and keep property owners afloat. A system that requires both tenants and landlords to complete complex forms is the enemy of both. Only $156 million has trickled out to date. Rather than face up to this, Hochul wants to call a special legislative session to find a way around the Supreme's ruling. Yeah, rather than trying to fix the extremely slow pace of the rental assistance in the state of New York, they're just trying to create another eviction moratorium, another nightmare for both tenants and landlords. Because with the eviction moratorium, right, the tenant continues to accumulate debt. Okay, the landlord is forced to pay the bills for the tenant with no compensation, and the rental assistance, I mean, a lot of landlords aren't even eligible for it. A lot of tenants aren't eligible for the rental assistance, so it wouldn't be beneficial at all to put an eviction moratorium in place that's going to protect these tenants that don't even need protection. So yeah, I mean, they really need to get on it. So they were allocated $2.4 billion and they've only distributed $156 million. That's insane. I mean, that's less than, I mean, that's like 5%. 5% of the money they were allocated. That is so little. I mean, no wonder people just want to get rid of it. I mean, if I was up in New York State, I would be frustrated too. There's a better way. Trust the landlords. Get rid of the red tape and substitute a simple, legally binding declaration by property owners of the amount their rental income has declined, tied to a promise not to evict tenants for non-payment. The slow rate of assistance distribution is the result of a Rube Goldberg system in which tenants must declare that they are in need of financial help, and landlords must open their books to authorities to demonstrate their own need. The Emergency Rental Assistance Program website is a veritable labyrinth. The process is so complex that the ERAP homepage includes a training video on how to apply. Wow, that's so crazy and that's so stupid. It basically defines the ERAP program throughout the entire country, not just in New York, because these same issues, the same bureaucratic mess exists in all of these programs throughout the entire country. I mean, you know, from Texas to Louisiana, all these states, okay? Doesn't matter what the if they're red or blue or conservative or more progressive or not, okay? That's why, landlords, they are getting the short end of the stick and they need to eliminate all of the stuff that is making this so complex. So I agree with the author when they say they need to trust the landlords, okay? If we say that we are being shorted money, then I mean, I will gladly sign a sworn affidavit saying that, I am being shorted money by this tenant. The tenant doesn't want to apply, so please just pay me directly and I'll keep this tenant in the place. But they won't let the landlords do that. There's a landlord portal as well, which reflects the fact that both landlord and tenant must apply together for assistance to flow. It's a system in desperate need of a reality check. Landlords aren't itching to evict needy tenants for sadistic pleasure. No property owner wants a vacant apartment, especially when unemployment rate remains high and there's no guarantee of finding a new tenant to replace the one who would be evicted. Instead, we need a new trust but verify system for property owners that would channel assistance funds directly to them. This would mirror what turned out to be the highly effective federal Paycheck Protection Program. The PPP directed funds to business owners to allow them to continue to pay workers idled by the lockdowns. The funds went to the businesses, not to the employees, to allow owners to continue to pay their workers. Yeah, and that's a good point right there, okay? The PPP program didn't have all this bureaucratic mess. They didn't funnel it down to the local governments to take care of it, okay? They sent the money directly to the business owners. And in the case of all of this, rental assistance program, rather than the federal government just directing the money straight to the landlords, they said, okay, we're going to funnel it to the state governments, and we're going to put all these stipulations and rules on it. We're going to make it super hard because they were so afraid that there was going to be some sort of corruption by landlords that they didn't want to make it easy for landlords to get this money. And so they actually created this problem of, the rental assistance being so slow. They created the problem by putting in all these extra protections, and then they made a whole bunch of landlords not even want to participate in the program because it was so complicated. I mean, imagine if you had a huge apartment complex of, let's say, 300 units, and you had just 5% of those tenants not paying, which would be about 15 units. But if it takes hours on end to fill out all the applications and do all the stuff just for one of those tenants who's not paying, then you're going to need a whole, compliance team just to apply for rental assistance. I mean, that's ridiculous. Most landlords don't have tons of teams of accountants and lawyers and people filling out paperwork and trying to get, back and forth with the tenant, trying to get everything organized just so they can collect this rental assistance. I mean, even the big landlords would have trouble struggling with these programs. So yeah, I mean, they really screwed the landlords and the tenants over by putting so much crap into the emergency rental assistance program. And so, yeah, they need to simplify it. Memo to Hochul, who has joined the progressive rush to declare landlords the enemies of the people. Property owners are business owners too. Hundreds of thousands of mom and pop landlords are small biz owners, themselves in need of paying mortgages and the property taxes municipalities rely on. The parallel to PPP should be clear. Get the money to the property owners as a way to protect the tenants. Here's how to make it work. Owners would fill out a short income declaration form comparing their pre- and post-COVID rental income. Send it to the State Department of Revenue, which is already equipped to issue refund checks directly to bank accounts. Access to those business bank accounts by tax officials would provide protection against fraud based on the same threat that any taxpayer faces: random audits. Notice that this approach assumes good faith on the part of the renters, taking for granted that those who didn't pay their rent were prevented by COVID side effects from doing so. So yeah, it would just assume that all the people in that situation who didn't pay their rent, the COVID was the reason that they didn't pay it. So they would automatically benefit whether they needed it or not. Okay, so, but the landlords would get paid, people wouldn't get evicted, and yeah, there would be a few people in there who would be, receiving a benefit that they might not necessarily deserve, but the overall good would be better, especially since they can't seem to get this money distributed to the people who need it right now. This is far from unprecedented. Public housing authorities nationwide, including the New York City Housing Authority, already send rent payments via direct deposit to property owners who participate in the Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher program. Getting funds directly to landlords shouldn't bar them from any and all evictions. So-called lease violations, criminal activity for instance, must still be grounds for eviction. Only back rent should be forgiven. Might there be fraud? Of course there might. But the COVID relief programs have all been plagued by fraud, as of course is Medicaid, the core of Obamacare. That shouldn't deter us from getting emergency income to those who are counting on it, property owners, and by extension, their tenants. Yeah, they're so worried about fraud that they're going to make it so that landlords have to take the L and lose just a ton of money, okay? And rather than doing a trust but verify system like they did with the PPP loans that helped out all those small business owners, they're making us jump through all these hoops. So in the end, the property owners, the landlords, end up being the ones who suffer the most throughout all of this because we've had our property rights just trampled upon. Okay, so this isn't helping tenants. This isn't helping landlords. We need to fix these rental assistance programs. And like I said earlier, leave a comment down below and let me know what you think of this proposal to fix the rental assistance program, or if you have any better solutions than this.